Hey there, little buddies, and welcome to yet another edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, in which we will be covering Twin Peaks: The Return, Part 8. I am Mothman, and I am joined by the golden orb to my black orb, Kristin.
Hi. I love that. That's great.
Right? Yeah, I have this new thing.
The Senorita Dodo to your giant?
Yeah, there we go. I have this new thing where I completely forget to make those until the moment I'm on air, and I just have to wing it.
I like it better.
There's a lot of yin and yang in this show, so it's not too hard to kind of pull out of my ass.
I'm pretty okay with it.
Yeah. Well, before we get too far into it, because this is definitely going to be a weird one, let's start off with our tradition where we have some nice, weird news. You ready for this?
And other weird news?
Yes. No weird news. I still have forgotten to make that somehow. All right. You ready for this first story? It's pretty good.
I can't wait.
Okay. So you know how we have the Supreme Court here? Mm-hmm. Well, you know,
I'm aware, yes.
The Italians have something like that too, which is not called the Supreme Court. And they just handed down a landmark decision that says you are not allowed to put your lobsters on ice before you cook them.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. I guess it went all the way to the highest court, because even though you're going to cook lobsters alive, they don't think they should be, really uncomfortable and cold right beforehand.
It's inhumane to make them cold, but not boil them alive.
Apparently, that was
that makes sense.
That was the fight.
In Italy.
Yeah, these animal rights activists in Italy were going for that. Like, they're like, look, we know you're never going to turn culture around on frying shrimp alive, but let's at least have them not be mistreated.
It almost makes sense in the way of the culture. Because I'm recently Italian. I don't know if you know that. As of 2014, I've become Italian.
Oh, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
I did. Yeah, thank you. So actually, as of 2014, I stopped putting my lobsters on ice because what the fuck, Mothis? That's your new name.
Mothis. Oh, God.
And other weird news. Yeah, that is inhumane. No, that's actually really weird. And I feel like that actually would be more humane to put them on ice.
Maybe? I don't know. Maybe it prolongs the...
It would numb their senses so that they wouldn't feel it right away, maybe?
Yeah. I think the new Italian court law that they should rule in is like an epidural or something.
Definitely an epidural for the lobster.
Yeah, just make it pass out and then we can cook away and, we won't hear it scream.
You know that's not what happens during an epidural, right?
They don't throw you in boiling water afterwards? Don't they stick something in your spine?
You don't pass out. You definitely don't pass out. You're just really happy from the neck down.
Oh, well, at least these lobsters have a grand old time until they die.
They're just like sitting there, like none the wiser, like doo doo doo. Like, they don't care.
Yeah, who gives a shit? All right.
There you go. That's the word.
Do you happen to have a weird story?
I do.
Okay, all right, let's hear it.
So in other weird news, losing your subway card or bus ticket, probably one of the most frustrating things you could ever go through. But a biohacker from Sydney, Australia has figured out a way to prevent that. He's embedded his transit pass into his hand. The gentleman had the near field communication chip from the Opal card cut down, encased in biocompatible plastic, and inserted into his body beneath the skin on the side of his left hand. Oh. But that's not the weird part of the story.
Okay, all right.
His name was legit Meow Ludo Disco Gamma Meow Meow.
The weird part of the story is that the guy had his name legally changed
to Meow Ludo Disco Gamma Meow Meow.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if people call him Gam Gams for short.
I mean, I will now.
Right? I'm not going to say that. That's a long and annoying name. Wow. I wonder what experiences he has had to feel compelled to do that.
I mean, I'm not even 100% certain that he changed his name to that. What if his parents are just dicks?
Yeah, that's true. And I was actually referring to the sticking his Metro card in his hand.
I mean, I think that's kind of genius, actually.
Yeah.
If he knows a way to do it.
I just feel like, opting into surgery to be able, I mean, I don't know. Now, the more I think about it, I'm kind of sold on it. You would look like a wizard. You just wave your hand and it would let you in. It's kind of magical.
I don't think surgery. I think like one of those movies where they just take one of those like oversized pins and put it to your hand. And it goes zzz, and it just like goes in. I don't.
You know what actually might have been a better idea is just like he probably could have bought an Apple Watch or something.
Probably.
Right? There's like all these wearables now that do the exact same thing. So this would have been a really cool story. And he would have gotten all the ladies if this was like a decade ago.
You know what I do see, though? Is I see somebody like Philosopher being given the option of the watch, and he's not into it fashionably. And he's like, no, I'll just stick it in my hand.
Oh, yeah. He is a total fashion diva.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe Meow Meow's just like Philosopher. Mr. Meow Meow. Sorry, that was
Mr. Meow Meow, yeah. Show some respect, goddammit. All right. So this one is sad. It's very sad, but it's also very unique. So we're going to bring the audience down, but, it's probably the appropriate tone for this episode. So a Southern California man, he buried his son, right? Son died. They identify the remains. It's terrible. It's horrible. Except then 11 days later, he got a call from a payphone, and it was his son saying hi and letting him know he was okay and he was just homeless.
Stop it.
Yup. Like somehow they fucked up the fingerprints or whatever, notified this dude, had a whole funeral. Somehow the homeless kid got wind of it. They hadn't been in touch, and so then he calls from a payphone and he realizes his son isn't dead, but his son is homeless, which isn't like... I mean, I guess given the circumstances, it's a relief, but still another bummer of news.
Oh my God.
Right?
I don't even know how to react to that.
Yeah, pretty.
That's weird and upsetting and...
Could just imagine that conversation. Like, he's going to be breaking down in tears because his son's alive. And then he's like, oh my God, what happened? Where are you? Tell me you're okay. Well, I mean, I'm okay, but... I'm malnourished, I don't have anywhere to live, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, God, man. Yeah, well, I cut you off a long time ago, so, anyway, glad to hear from you. And then he hangs up.
Ooh, that would be, like, the roughest conversation ever, honestly.
Well, that was weird news. It was sad news in this case, but...
Yeah.
Now...
Hey, can you do me a favor? Next time, when one of the pieces of your news has to do with a funeral, can you lead with that so I don't leave feeling like, well, no, he ended up being alive, so actually no, I feel pretty great about it.
Okay, there we go. As long as you came around. So
thank you.
Now we are going to get into what's going to almost feel like an art house experiment with an episode like this, which is summing it up in a tweet.
Oh yeah, we're summing it up, so summing it up. Summon it up, oh yeah, we're summing it up. Oh yeah, we're summing it up, so summon it up. Summon it up and up.
Tweet. Okay, so we are each going to attempt to sum up an episode like this in a tweet, which was an hour long and had almost no dialogue and was mostly imagery. So, I mean, how confident do you feel in your tweet?
I actually like my tweet.
Okay, then I'm going to go first so that when I bring everyone down that you can bring
I mean,
us
it's
back
not
up.
that great, but I'm still confident.
There we go. Boob Tube Buddies. Nothing if not competent. That should be our new promo. Okay, all right. So I don't have... This doesn't rhyme. It's not anything. It's just very matter of fact. It's really basic. All right. The death
You're just going to go, this is the water, this is the well.
Yeah, it's just that over and over and over. God, that would have been pretty good. That whole phrase might be right at 140. Okay, scene. All right. The death of the doppelganger summons listless souls to bring Bob to the void. Nuclear casualties put this all into motion, and now Laura is an orb. That's it.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Right?
That sums it up pretty well. Were you trying to sum up this episode in a tweet? Because you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not just a clever title. Every now and then, when I did with Legion with Nathan, he's like, I'm going to tell you something right now, Mathis. Actually, he called me Mothman because you're on a fucking show. And God, life's weird, isn't it?
It really is.
Anyway, he's like, I'm going to tell you something. You're the best person at actually summing up the show with a tweet. Everyone else tries to do something clever or funny or rhyming, but not you, buddy. You sum it up. And I took that as a compliment, but as I repeat it, he was clearly throwing shade.
You think so? Because I just took that as a compliment to you.
Yeah, no, Nathan's a nice guy. It was Foxman, I would say. It was
no, he's a dick. Fuck him. Let's bring it.
All right. Well, so I gave us competence. Let's hear you top it.
And now you'll get the rhymes.
Okay.
But no competence.
Fair enough.
Here goes. This is the water. This is the well. I also think it was the birth of Bob, as far as I can tell. Senorita Dodo from the Lodge of White. This tweet doesn't make any sense. Got a light?
Ooh, very good. That's what I call a summon up in a tweet. Yeah, yours was much better than mine. It summed it up and it rhymed. And you even were able to call characters out by name that weren't just Laura.
Oh, so I have something to tell you, and I didn't tell you until we got on here. So a couple of days ago, we were talking about this episode and how, recapping something that's mainly imagery is going to be a little difficult. But guess what I did last night?
You did some research?
I watched for the very first time Fire Walk With Me.
What? You never seen it?
Yes. No, I literally went straight from the show to the return. And I hadn't watched Fire Walk With Me. Mm-hmm. And holy shit, that filled in so many blanks.
Yeah, no, it once upon a time there's going to be like 2 other movies. There actually is a movie I haven't seen only because I didn't realize what it was. On the first time I ever saw Twin Peaks is when it came out on Blu-ray a few years ago. I bought it, and there's a thing called Missing Pieces, which is it's essentially deleted scenes, but I guess it's all canon. And David Lynch put it together into an 1.5-hour movie, kind of sequentially of just deleted stuff from Fire Walk With Me.
Is that what that was? Because I watched like 5 of those on YouTube today.
Yeah, and Missing Pieces is, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of deleted stuff that isn't part of it, but Missing Pieces is kind of like this 1.5-hour movie that's apparently canon, but, the audio isn't as good because they didn't do overdubs, and it's a little weird, but yeah, Fire Walk With Me.
Oh, it's a little weird?
It is.
I refuse.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's weird not from a Twin Peaks standpoint, but just from hearing characters that are in a car talk, and you clearly didn't have them overdubbed, so it just sounds like they're distant, you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, so after seeing Fire Walk With Me, did this, because I have seen it, and I've seen it recently, but I still had to go back and look some stuff up to make sense of this episode. I got, what was your initial, before you watched Fire Walk With Me, what did you think this episode was about? Did you like it, not like it?
I thought I was going to call in sick for this. I'm not gonna lie.
It's just me talking I just end up doing a Dr. Jacoby type show.
Pretty much, like you start. It's 7 a.m. Where's your freedom? It's just gonna be you, because as soon as that episode ended, I had never seen Fire Walk With Me, and I, for some reason, I'm not gonna lie. Let's say we live in Colorado. I got really high for episode 7, didn't remember shit of it. And then all of a sudden I watched episode 7, episode 8, and then watched Fire Walk With Me. And I'm like, all of a sudden my mind was blown.
Right.
I was like, oh, holy shit. I didn't know who Jeffries was.
David Bowie.
Yes, now I know. It answered so many questions for me. It was ridiculous. 2 days ago when we talked, I was like, oh, I can't wait to do this. It's going to be so exciting. Oh, my God. And now I'm actually oh, I can't wait to talk about this, because now I'm linking so many things together, looking online, looking at these theories. There's so many cool theories. And I actually understand. I was watching episode 7 and I was like, oh my God, what was it? The atom bomb in the background of David Lynch.
Yep. Yeah. In Gordon's office.
Yes. Like little things like that, like really stuck out to me that wouldn't have if I didn't do that. So I'm very happy I did that before this because I have a lot more input than I would have a couple days ago.
Yeah, so Brookie and I were talking after doing one of our segments, and he has some really cool content for this week as well. And
well, I'm excited.
We were he was talking about like if anyone had a secret cameo of someone that famous that died, because like Log Lady was passed away, yet she's still in it. He was like, I would not be surprised at all if somehow Lynch got like new audio or David Bowie shot something before he passed away. Because this would have started shooting in 2015, and I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow keeps it a secret, and then we get something like that.
That would be insanity.
All right.
And even if they didn't, there's like new technology where they could almost pull it off. Yeah,
and I don't think Lynch would necessarily see the need. Like he could just do a voice or something, but that'd be nice fan service. So when I watched this episode, my initial kind of thoughts were, okay, this bomb goes off, you see Doppelganger get killed, and you kind of see these ghosts start to devour him, and I immedially kind of
You mean they bum rush him?
Yeah, they bum rush him, literally, they're all bums, and then they start to just like tear him apart. It's a good joke.
I love a good one like that.
Yeah, that is so good. And then you start to piece things together because you see the explosion, and you kind of get the idea that, oh, maybe these are like the ghosts caused by nuclear fallout.
Before we get to that, can we just talk about 9 Inch Nails?
Oh my God, I almost forgot about that. It's so weird to have a Roadhouse performance in the beginning of the show, not the end.
Exactly, we're without the credits.
Yeah, and kind of intense.
Very, but like if you actually broke down, like at first I was like, okay, why the fuck is 9 Inch Nails here? This is really pointless. Is this supposed to be an intermission? Like, what's the deal with this? But then when I went online, a lot of people broke down the lyrics, and it's actually eerily creepy to what happens in the episode. The song starts out about somebody digging in and blood everywhere, and that's exactly what happens in the first part of the episode. So I don't think this song obviously was made because it's on their new album for the episode. So I don't know. It's very interesting to me.
No, it's interesting though. This song first came out like 5 months ago or something like that. Or I don't know about that.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a YouTube video or like sound clip of it online of the whole song. And in the comment section, this was on Reddit, someone screenshotted it. In the comment, this is a 5-month-old comment, said, man, this song should be in Twin Peaks, which I thought was pretty funny. And then someone below it recently has put, this person clearly was like involved in the shooting of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, because that's not just like happenstance. Right? Like that just didn't like I don't know. But I would love to believe it was.
I know. I would love, I'm going to believe in that reality.
I'm going to choose to believe it was.
So, me too. All right. So it gets weird. There's the bum rushing. All that jazz is happening, and then you start to see, like, they rip out Bob. You eventually see, I don't know, you tell me if you thought this, but that was that creature that started to kind of vomit out, souls, and one of them was Bob. That's the same creature that ripped those people's faces off in episode 1, right?
It absolutely was.
Yeah. So you're seeing...
They're called what you referred to as the Dark Mother, which you're right about it, is actually called, quote, the Experiment. Capital E, the Experiment.
Okay. So
that's what they refer to it as. And she was eventually vomiting up eggs and Bob.
Yeah. So like new, baby souls, but now Bob is kind of going back through the matrix, so to speak, to possibly go back to the lodge, maybe inhabit someone else. And then we also get the golden orb of Laura coming from the giant, and he's kind of watching what's happening. and you're almost starting to think like, is Laura some kind of divine character that's almost reincarnated, kind of like Bob is?
Yeah, exactly. You've got Bob as like the bad guy, and then you've got Laura as like the light figure that comes out of the giant's head. Like the way they portrayed her in Fire Walk with Me, I don't know if you would call her purely good, but more of a leverage against the Bob and the arm world. I don't know how to say it. Like, I guess all the people in the convenience store from Fire Walk with Me. You know what I'm talking about? Above with the canned corn. Mm-hmm. I don't know what kind of conversation we're having here, but the people who are listening understand it. Well, Bob and Arm, who has the convenience store with the cream corn, also known as Garmonbozia.
Garmonbozia.
Garmonbozia. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point, but...
So I was thinking, like, okay, maybe, how Bob is this, character that has this one face, but he basically took over Leland, and now he's taken over Dale. So my mind is thinking Laura is a similar type character. The difference being that she inhabited a character that kind of looks like her, or maybe, I don't know, maybe the struggle she had, the power she had, maybe she's this new entity that's now gonna... Like, maybe Bob was a person once upon a time, and now he manifests, his energy through other people. And now Laura was a new one for good that's doing the same thing.
Yeah, because when you see the giant rewatch all that shit, they're very, like, the giant and Senorita Dodo, as she's called. Oops, sorry. They are watching the birth of Bob, or, the whole first atomic bomb Manhattan Project, or whatever you want to call it. They're watching all of this and seeing the birth of Bob and not being, they're nonplussed about it. And so then as soon as they're very not happy about it, you see, like you said, the giant give birth to this golden orb, and Senorita Dodo kisses it and puts it out into the earth. And yes, in the end, I agree that the Laura is the good and the Bob is the evil. And it's kind of like the balance between both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I would agree, and it's just interesting to maybe see, is Laura this ancient entity, or maybe is she newly born, from the events that's kind of happened? So,
well, I will say that in the future of this episode, when it comes back to 1956, are we allowed to jump there yet?
Of course.
But okay, cool. So when it goes into 1956, they have Sarah Palmer on IMDb, which is Laura Palmer's mom, her birth as 1945, right? And so if you give way, she's going to be like somewhere in between the ages of 11 or 15, that she could have possibly, that girl that got kissed with the locust cockroach in her mouth.
Yeah, the locust frog, the fly frog.
Could that be Laura Palmer's mom?
Oh, and then that's what gave her the ability to give birth to the special creature that is Laura? Exactly. My goodness, great minds. Okay, that's an interesting theory. Man, what a weird and cool episode. So, how do you feel about
I loved it so much more the second one.
What's that?
I said I loved it so much more the second time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just, I mean, in the context of everything else, like this is the type of thing where the season's weird, but I almost can't wait to rewatch all 18 when it's done. So let's throw to an ad, and when we come back, I'm going to go into like a kind of interesting theory from Reddit, and then, what other crazy stuff there. And we also will have our interview with Brookie Shy Shy in between, who I know has some crazy ass shit. So we'll see you all in a little bit. Be back.
Player 3 has entered the game.
All right, folks, we're here with another segment of Brookie Ain't So Shy Shy, and with such a over-the-top episode with little dialogue, mostly imagery, there's a lot to infer and speculate about, and who better to do that than Brookie, who is so well researched, and I know you got a whole lot to talk about. So let's get into it.
All right, man, let's go. I really don't think anyone, except for the people who worked on this production, could have envisioned that Part 8 would have been something that is a bit of a watershed mark in television. It's incredible. It's a beautiful, it's a fantasia of sight and sound. It's something that evokes pure power and pure meaning. It's open to many interpretations. Me, myself, I have a bit of a background in like comparative theology, world history. It's unfortunately mostly Western Hemisphere American history.
Yeah.
But what interests me about this is the complete, absolute, like monochrome beauty and horror of the depiction of the atom bomb. That we were talking earlier on the parts 3 and 4 about Lynch's use of chaos magic techniques.
Yeah, definitely.
And I totally called it then. I didn't even expect him to do it, but he brought back Penderecki, who he used to incredible effect in Inland Empire, and he used his cut. Was it Threnody for the Victims of Hiroshima, which is a neoclassical, harsh orchestral piece that highlights the true horror of American nuclear weaponry. Mathis, you're about my age. I know our parents grew up during a time where they feared instantaneous death. You know, they were trained to go underneath their desks, to fear the Soviet Union during the Cold War. So it's not a surprise that Mark Frost and David Lynch are bringing this to the television. What's surprising is like the level of harsh, beautiful, abstract art nature that comes with it. But if you read The Secret History of Twin Peaks, which I recommended on an earlier Boob Tube Buddies best of list, you'll know that Mark Frost has an extreme interest in American like esoteric culture. Some people would say Fortean culture or conspiracy culture. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this Western thinking goes back to the creation of the atom bomb and eventually the Roswell incident, which is also included in The Secret History of Twin Peaks. But with the atom bomb, like most people don't realize that the Manhattan Project, while they were working in secret, at one point there was a Dr. Edward Teller, and he had a calculation where he said, wait. If these calculations are correct, the nuclear blast will be so exothermic that it will cause spontaneous nuclear reactions in the atmosphere and incinerate the world, right? So they had to go back to the drawing board.
Crazy.
So at one point, the United States was engaged in building a weapon that would destroy the entire world instantaneously. They weren't sure until they actually tested at the Trinity site that it would be a nuclear weapon. The creation of a nuclear bomb is something that, at least as far as humans know, is something that's completely unique in the universe. It is man having the ability to create the situation which theoretically caused the Big Bang and created the universe that we live in. The fact that we didn't destroy the world is pardon my French, but is a fucking miracle.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's very many schools of thought going into magical viewpoints, mostly Aleister Crowley's Thelema, and later Peter J. Carroll and Kenneth Grant, who I'll get into later, and chaos magic and Ordo Templi Orientalis Typhonus. But to have a clearer picture of what I'm going to get at when I come to my ultimate view that this episode purely conveys a metaphysical horror at the base of all horrors, and is something that will probably never be recreated. I don't know what the rest of these 10 hours will be, but it's going to be pretty freaking hard to like top this, you know, like as far as art and like something that causes like a gut, like a clenching of your bowels when you like, I don't know how loud you watched it when you first saw it, but like even on a medium range, that Penderecki just like made my stomach drop.
Yeah, it's like a brown note.
Like, it's so, well, yeah, right. Well, a brown note, except for like, instead of feces, blood.
yeah, exactly.
But what I really wanted to focus on with this idea, it's so abstract that you can pull so many things from the well. You know, there's so much water in the well, right? So drip deep and descend, like the woodsman says. So if you read The Secret History of Mark Frost, he includes a very fascinating character in American history. And this person was born in 1914 under the name of Marvella Whitesides Parsons. He didn't like that name, so he changed his name to John. But most of his friends as he grew older would call him Jack Parsons. Now, Jack Parsons had two very intense passions in his life. And the first one, which most people would credit with the technology that would get human beings into space, the technology that would create our Scud missiles, pure rocketry, liquid and solid fuel rocketry, is something that Jack Parsons created without a college degree. This guy has 7 patents. He worked for Hughes Aerojet and Caltech before forming JPL. Most people will know JPL. It's on the cutting edge to this day of like future aircraft, engineering, spacecraft, and all these things. But most people like jokingly call it Jack Parsons Laboratory.
Okay.
His other big influence in life was Thelema, which is the religion of Aleister Crowley created. Most people would call it like a satanic religion, but it's its own thing. A lot of weird sex acts and candles, all this crazy whatever you would think. If anyone wants to read Thelema, that's another discussion with Twin Peaks. But Jack Parsons eventually became the head of the Ordo Templi Orientalis branch of Thelema in Pasadena, California, and he called his house where he lived and practiced with a lot of Hollywood people, local bankers and merchants, a lot of well-connected other rocket scientists, military men, and he called it the Agape Lodge. Agape is Greek for love. It was the love lodge. So basically, they performed sex acts, rituals, and eventually, someone stumbled into this circle of people. He was a young pulp science fiction writer by the name of Lafayette Ron Hubbard. Most people will know him as L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the Church of Scientology. He's also a character with a first-person voice in The Secret History of Twin Peaks by Mark Frost. Very interesting. L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons eventually would have a falling out where L. Ron Hubbard stole his wife, a fortune, and a couple of boats. If anyone wants to look that up, it's freely available in The Barefaced Messiah, which is the unauthorized but extremely true biography of L. Ron Hubbard and an expose on the Church of Scientology. But before that, in 1945, right before the testing of the atom bomb, they were engaged in a magical working derived from the supposed 4th chapter of an original 3 revealed holy books to Aleister Crowley, a 4th supposed holy book, which was a magical working that was called the Babylon working, Babalon, Babylon. Babylon in Thelema is sort of like an elemental spirit of full sort of like the power of women, or like a woman reaching full sexual independence and full powerful independence in the world, breaking free of male domineering spirit, but in an avenging way. And through a bunch of believe what you will, but basically, they were wanking off, and like, chanting and all this. But a young woman showed up at their doorstep. Babylon in the Bible is traditionally called the Scarlet Woman. This woman had red hair, and her name was Marjorie Cameron. Marjorie Cameron worked for naval intelligence. She was a cartographer, a rebellious person since her youth, always had interests in witchcraft, esoteric thought, and she said she felt a tug to go to California. The interesting thing about that is, like, Marjorie Cameron would later go on to be in a Kenneth Anger film. Kenneth Anger is a very famous Satanist filmmaker, like an awesome filmmaker. Mick Jagger and Jimmy Page collaborated to make the film Lucifer Rising, but Marjorie Cameron had a starring role with the famous American author Henry Miller, his wife Anais Nin, a famous transgressive feminist. They were in a movie called Invocation of the Pleasure Dome. Together, this woman showed up on their doorstep, and they engaged in a ritual, which was the real Babylon working, if you're to believe the conspiracy theorists and the esotericists. And basically, Jack Parsons and her fathered not a miscarried child, but some form of child that was encased in a metal bottle, 10,000 pound, 25 foot by 12 foot diameter bottle that was nicknamed Jumbo, which was included at the Trinity test. According to official government documents, the bottle was to test like the distance of the blast and metals.
Weird.
With endurance of a nuclear blast, but in accordance to Thelemic ritual, this would be the invocation of what Aleister Crowley would call the moon child, which would be a dead body animated by nuclear energy to create what is called a homunculus in alchemy. A homunculus is a not quite human creature, which has various powers, clairvoyance, the ability to kill with its mind, astral projection, things like that, right? That's the conspiracy angle. Some people think that encased in this metal object that was dropped with the original bomb at Trinity included a dead body within it, or some form of half-living, half-dead monstrosity.
Some weird shit, right?
To invoke sort of like what would be called the new Aeon, an Aeon of Horus, of a crowned and conquering child. Now, what's interesting about Twin Peaks, and what gets me in here, it goes into chaos magic, because a later follower of Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, who lived in Britain and formed a branch of the OTO called the Ordo Templi Typhonis, Kenneth Grant, he wrote about a reappraisal of the ideas of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically his idea was that with nuclear physics, at the center of all things, at the center of the galaxy, is what H.P. Lovecraft called Azathoth, the blind idiot god, sort of like what we saw, a blind, no-eyed entity with no sex, really, in between everything, in a chasm without light, without anything, just spewing forth terrible things, one of which is Bob, which is the entity that haunts Twin Peaks. It's a creation of something from beyond roundless measure. But what Kenneth Grant was getting at is that the idea of Azathoth is sort of like H.P. Lovecraft's flipped view of the Hindu god Brahman, which is the eternal sleeper, because in both Hinduism and in Lovecraft's universe, these two entities at the center of all things are the dreamers. They, through their dreams, they create the hardship and terrible things of the world, and when they awake, everything flips out of existence. It is nothing. It is all everything. And if you watch Fire Walk with Me, Philip Jeffries, in between static cuts, says we live inside of a dream right before he disappears.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I believe these things. These are things that I've read about through various publishings. I recommend Sex and Rockets by John Carter of Feral House Publishing. Feral House does like the most original underground, like punk, esoteric and occult writings. There's also a great autobiography of Jack Parsons called Strange Angel by George Pendle. It was going to be made an AMC series with Ridley Scott directing, but it was canceled.
Oh, wow.
Which, yeah. Then there's let's see, Man, Myth, and Magic. It's a zine series by Kenneth Grant. There's Carrie Salton's The Influence of H.P. Lovecraft on Occultism, and Dr. Justin Woodman, he has a lecture series. It's available on YouTube, which is called The Dark Chariots of the God, basically how H.P. Lovecraft seeded the idea that would later go on to be Ancient Aliens on History Channel and all this stuff that Mark Frost is writing about in The Secret History.
Yeah.
Through his whole original thing. So they're playing with some heavy things. I feel like Mark Frost wrote this script, right, and handed it to David Lynch, and was like, okay, yeah, okay, I get where all right, yeah, I'll do it, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I get you.
Think about it. The idea of the homunculus, that it's not true. I mean, God help us, it's a terrifying, scary story, right? But the idea of the homunculus, it's not quite human. It's not bestial. It's a mixture of everything. It's a bit of a chimera, a mixture of different animals and human. And that definitely reminds me of what people are calling the frog bug or the frog roach.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, that fulfills like and going back to the Middle Centuries definition of a homunculus is. It's a terrifying creature born out of wastes of a terrifying magical
It's like a Frankenstein, like a magical Frankenstein, but with any organism.
Well, that's the thing about magic. The people that legitimately take it seriously, they don't think of it as jeu de mer, which is French for sleight of hand. Magic to them is just a form of science.
Yeah.
Or a form of art, So, I mean, Grant Morrison, take it all back around to episode 3. Grant Morrison in The Invisibles basically concluded the same thing. His idea at Mark Frost, I'm pretty sure Mark Frost definitely knows all about this. It's all of it's in the original series, and people have built up along it. But Grant Morrison in The Invisibles, if you'll remember, the whole point is that at Roswell, what they found was like a piece of the immortal God, the divine being that animates all within all, and it was a being trapped within its own creation. But man had the gall and audacity to experiment on it, try and bend it to their own will, and through that created the horror of our own existence. Like, these are all so many words to get to the fact that we are all the cause of our own pain and sorrow. The atom bomb is something that was dropped on. It wasn't even really a military target in World War II. There were only like men that were elderly, infirm. There were children and women. All the men were out at the front fighting America. Like, if you think about it, if people want to argue with me, get up with me on YouTube at this, come and argue with me. But I think that the atom bomb is one of like the real horrible things that humanity has ever done. Like, it's something that only the Big Bang itself has done, and we managed to create it artificially. All things with Dr. Edward Teller are in Scientific America articles about how they thought they were going to destroy the world, but they went on with it anyway. And still, it's a threat that looms over us, even in 2017, with all this stuff Trump's talking about North Korea. But like, ease up off that. But like, people say the show isn't relevant, but like primeval horror is always relevant, and it's more important these days because we live vicariously through phones and electronics, and the spirits in his show travel through electricity. So it's a motive for these images hitting you and giving you a specific motive, and that is that all of this violence is nothing but abject horror. That's basically a callback to what I was talking about a couple episodes forward. All these themes are just being brought together and then just completely exploded over a visual medium, literally, this week. And before I get too wired up, man, I think we should cut it short. We've had a little bit of magical things happen during the course of this one. But I want to leave with a few thoughts, and that is that 8 is actually, in the tarot, in the major arcana, is strength. And I would say, if anything, this symbolizes what America projects as its strength. It's a strength for the episode. It's something very wild that will be analyzed endlessly on and on into the future. I mean, this is just the beginning. I mean, who knows where the show goes from now, but this episode is something that breaks all medium boundaries. It's beautiful, and totally horrifying. And one last thought. The number 8, if you turn it on its side, that's the infinity symbol.
There we go. Love it. Yeah, definitely a crazy, chilling episode. I don't really know how they're going to follow this. Like, obviously they will, but I don't know what road they'll take, but I'm sure it'll be a unique one. And then we'll see a few more pieces fall into place. It's going to be
great. Lynch has the biggest balls.
That's for sure. Yeah, I am stoked, man. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on as always. Yeah, thanks again, man.
Drink deep and descend, little buddies.
Player 3 has left the game.
Who is it?
You have to let me in. There are monsters on the streets. Flesh-eating monsters.
What? Are you crazy? Go away.
No, please. You can't leave me out here. I will die. They will eat me alive.
Oh, shucks. Look, I can't let you in. I have a family to protect, but I can make it better.
Really? How? How could you possibly make this better?
With a coupon, of course. Go to audibletrial.com/Boob Tube Buddies and you can get a free book. A book like The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
What the fuck is an audiobook going to do for me?
You don't know The Secret? The Secret has been passed down through the ages, highly coveted, hidden, lost, stolen and bought again for vast sums of money. It's been handed down by oral tradition and practiced by Plato, Galileo, Beethoven, and even Einstein. It gives you the power to do anything that you want.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, not at all. The Secret shows you how to realize your optimized reality. It's why I'm in a warm, cozy house with a loving family, eating filet mignon, and you're outside running from flesh-eating beasts. And it's only a 4.5-hour listen, and then you'll be good to go. Good luck!
But I don't even have headphones! Oh God, they're coming! Ah!
Spiders will eat your face. Available on Amazon Prime, Instant Watch, and Amazon.com. Spiders Will Eat Your Face. The documentary about the history of pet tarantulas in America. That is Spiders Will Eat Your Face. The movie on Amazon. It's a movie about the history of pet tarantulas in America.
My goodness, I love how since you didn't do "We're Back," you got to use the same voice.
I love that voice. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, hey.
Never getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Stop trying.
All right. So obviously a weird episode in and of itself, but some kind of cool implications. if you don't mind, there's a theory on Reddit that's kind of cool from Light from a Dead Star that I'd like to probably just read most of because it's not too long. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So there's the fact that this is kind of about Secret History of Twin Peaks, which is this book that Mark Frost put out that also fills in a whole bunch of blanks and stuff.
The guy that does the Audible for that is the guy, the agent who has Mr. Strawberry, the guy from The Faculty.
Oh, really? That's cool.
He's the one that does the voice for that.
Oh, I'll have to check it out because I haven't actually gotten to read this book yet. So I know Brookie read it and loved it. So I guess it's a real fact that plutonium was used in the construction of the nuclear bomb for the Trinity test, which is in part 8, that it was manufactured at the Hanford site, which is a nuclear facility in Washington state. So the plutonium used in this test was made in Washington, which is where Twin Peaks takes out. And then within a year, the world's first large-scale plutonium reactor was in service at Hanford. And by early 45, shipments of enriched plutonium from the plant's 3 reactors were being sent to Los Alamos every 5 days. This material will be used in the first atomic bomb test. So that's from The Secret History in Twin Peaks, which has a photo spread of the Hanford site on like 2 pages in the book, which is basically, I believe, the same photo that is in Gordon's office. And the interesting thing here is that the land that the Hanford site was built ended up being seized by the Nez Perce, I think I'm saying that right, tribe in 42, and then they were forcibly relocated. This is all true. Now, Nez Perce is the same type of Native American as Hawk, and that's the same logo in part 6 where he finds the pages. So we're starting to find even more connections here, right? Interesting.
Interesting.
And then
Very interesting.
Right? So Secret History also mentions that when Nez Perce were originally removed from their land in the 19th century, Chief Joseph warned one day there would come a reckoning. Perhaps the bomb, or more accurately, Bob and the lodge coming through from the Bob. So this was kind of like this prophecy coming through. And then another bit here is there's an archivist that concludes Harold Dahl's 1947 UFO encounter, which kind of kickstarted the whole, UFO alien phenomenon, was actually U.S. Air Force dumping nuclear waste from the Hanford site into the Columbia River. We already have alien connotations with Twin Peaks. And then this is the last little bit, which I think is kind of dumb, but it's still interesting, which is the Hanford site, geographically, its coordinates are 463501, and then 1192316. Anyway, this is all gibberish, but Cooper's doppelganger is looking for coordinates from Ray and says to remember 430 and 463501. It's the beginning of each coordinate, kind of putting you in the general direction of the bomb site.
And also, if you think about it, a minute past the atomic bomb, which started at 5:29 a.m. in Mexico City, so a minute later after the bomb goes off, that's going to be 5:30, and in Washington time, that is 4:30.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, that makes sense. I like that. Yeah, some kind of cool connections.
Holy shit! Wow, that's pretty crazy. That's a good theory. I like that.
Yeah, so between like maybe that's possibly Laura's mom. Anything? Any other stones we should unturn?
Yeah, the whole woodsman thing. We gotta cross the whole woodsman guy. The whole got a light. Everybody, like, that was, to me, the best part of the whole show. So you got this guy who looks like Abe Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
Guess why? Robert Borski is the one who plays him, and in everyday life, he plays an Abraham Lincoln impersonator, which I thought was hilarious.
That is funny.
But he's this really creepy guy who actually, theorists say, a popular theory says that he is the log lady's husband who died significantly in a fire on their wedding night.
Oh.
I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like we can't do an entire recap without at least ending with, this is the water, this is the well, drink full and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes and dark within.
Agreed. If I could remember it, I would repeat it, but...
I wrote it down. I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I promise you.
No, that whole scene where he just like, starts crushing skulls with his hand and taking over the radio waves, which then put everyone to sleep conveniently at the same time that these fly frogs hatch. And everything's kind of in black and white. Like, it was just genuinely creepy television.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely creepy television. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Twin Peaks has some of the creepiest characters I've ever come across, and it doesn't matter what. I think Bob is super creepy. My husband seems to think he's cheesy, but for some reason, I find him super creepy.
Oh, especially like the scene when he, kills Maddie. Like, it's just so freaky.
Exactly.
And when he's like slobbering on her chin. Yeah.
Yes, it's just, there's something super creepy about him. And then these woodsmen, the whole god of light, crushing the skulls. And, the whole thing he did over the radio reminded me of that movie Get Out.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever watch that?
I did.
Okay.
Good movie.
So now if anybody ever tells me to go into the fireplace or descend or get away from my brain, I'm going to be like, fuck you, I'm gone.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Right?
Because that's the second time in a month that I've seen somebody hypnotize somebody else using the words descend and below and drop. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I know what to look for now. I won't fall for your games.
Right. Well, at this point, I would imagine that our entire audience is suitably hypnotized.
Descend.
Our master plan is complete between the phrase earlier, you saying descend a few times. I'm sure we've cast some magic, and you keep subliminally doing it. So for those last few stragglers out there, oh man, anything else?
Yes, descend.
Descend. All right.
And descend.
We will see you next time, little buddies. Descend.
Descend. Descend. Descend.
Descend. Descend.